Welcome and greetings to Roundtable Decision. It has been a while, but instead of spending time on excuses and wasting your time, let's get straight to the video. Before we get into the deep part of the video, I have screenshotted all my sources and direct quotes, so you can follow along and know where I'm getting my information from. There will also be a cited page in the information section of the video. Today's video is going to be on mental health or mental illness. This topic is considered as many to be taboo and a topic which just not talked about. Mental health has become a topic what needs to be talked about. 1 out of every 5 young teens and adults experience a mental illness. Taking the school districts from 1990 to 2000, 89,599 total people in a school district in the United States. Running the numbers at 1 out of every 5 teens would put the number at 17,919.8 people who have a mental illness in a school district. And that is running off of 18-year-old data. Finding newer data with school districts due to growing of size and ever-expanding population. According to the National Center of Education Statistics, in the fall of 2018, about 56.6 million students will attend elementary and secondary schools. This would put the number at 11.32 million people suffering from mental illness. Also expect that 4 million ninth graders will be attending public school. Using the 1 out of every 5 statistics, that would put the number at 0.8 million teens suffering with mental illness as ninth graders. According to NAMA, National Alliance of Mental Health, children aged 13 to 18 fall in the category of 1 in 5 statistic as well. Secondary school ages are 5 to 18. Now expand this to the amount of people you see every day in your life. The research done by Anemia blog highlights how many people you see each year. It assumes a few things based off of data from various sources. One of these sources is the average of how long we live, 78.3 years. We remember people after the age of 5, assuming we interact with 3 people a day, and then multiply it by 365 days plus leap year, what makes for 365.24 days. That formula makes the magic number of 80,000 people we meet in our lives each year. It goes into other details in the infographics you are seeing, including where you might meet these people in environments such as college. Using the same 1 in 5 stats, that means you have met 16,000 people in your life would have a mental illness. To bring mental illness home as an example, I will take a poll done by Gallup and calculate how many friends the average person has. The mean or average number came out to 8.6 people, not including relatives. Applying the same statistics, that would mean that one person you are friends with now has some form of a mental illness. Adding family and cousins, and that number could easily change to 2 or 3 people. And these are the people closest to you. There are a few signs you can look for someone who might have a mental problem.
To look out for when dealing with an anxious person include reduced concentration and memory, difficulty making decisions, become irritable and angry, and avoid certain situations. Suffering from depression can feel sad, anxious, guilty, angry, helpless, and hopeless. They may also have low self-esteem and a tendency to believe that others only see them in a negative light. Other signs to look out for are self-criticism and blame, impaired memory and concentration, neglecting responsibilities, and loss of interest in appearance and personal hygiene. Bipolar disorder can be full of energy and talking very quickly, easily distracted, going off on unrelated tangents, lacking in energy, or feel sad, pessimistic, and hopeless. Schizophrenia. Schizophrenia is a widely misunderstood and feared mental illness. People who suffer from schizophrenia do not have dual personalities, but are rather split from reality and may have delusions about themselves or others. These symptoms can have a major impact on the ability to hold down jobs, maintain relationships, and many other aspects of everyday life. People with schizophrenia may appear distracted by things that to you doesn't seem apparent. For instance, they may start paying attention to another unheard voice, or even have a conversation with someone who isn't present. This can result in them finding it difficult holding a conversation while they are distracted with other thoughts. Disorder, known as OCD, can be a very disabling condition. Feelings of anxiety are combined with obsessive and unwelcome thoughts that lead to compulsive behaviours. A common obsession is a thought that dirt and germs have contaminated them and find themselves needing to wash hands frequently to feel clean. Compulsions are repeated activities that a sufferer feels compelled to carry out, such as constantly checking that a door is locked. These can be challenging for a person when dealing with routine tasks and managing relationships. Other common obsessions that you might notice are repeating actions and becoming anxious if they are unable to do so, fixating on a number, washing and cleaning ritually. If you think you or someone you know has a mental health condition, you are not alone. Wiltshire might.
If these signs are done over a long, extended period of time, it could be likely that the person is suffering from a mental illness. According to mentalhealth.gov, there are some factors what can make you more acceptable to mental health. There are 3 factors. 1, genetic factor, life experiences, and environmental. I will start with genetics. The reasoning for this is that, in short, some genes can lead to being more acceptable to a mental illness. There is some debate over whether genetics has to do with mental illness or not. Some believe that genetics does not cause mental illness rather than environmental as the main cause. Due to the fairness of argument, I will include both sides of the argument. In an article done by Newsweek, a headline states, "Depression linked to 44 genes in a major study." This is obviously the argument for genetics as a cause of mental health. Further down in the Newsweek article, it talks about a study published in the journal Nature Genetics. Nature Genetics saw researchers carry out a meta-analysis based on the DNA of over 135,000 people who reported having depression, and around 350,000 healthy people. This information was taken from 7 separate databases. The team found that we all carry some 44 genetic risk factors linked to depression. A large number of genetic variations were associated with the targets of existing antidepressant medication, according to these researchers. Lifestyle factors including a higher BMI were also found to be linked with MDD. If you don't trust Newsweek, let's go to the direct study itself and the journal quoted above. I'll be quoting the journal here. We undertook a series of genetic risk score (GRS) prediction analysis to demonstrate the reality of our genome-wide association results for clinical MDD. Figure 2. A genetic risk score is a summary measure of a set of risk-associated genetic variations. The defining characteristic of a genetic score is that it provides a quantitative measure of a genetic predisposition that is calculated using information from multiple genetic variations. In short, a genetic risk score is the risk level. The database used in this story were further evaluated with 23andMe cohort and other cohorts around it. The study also stated approximately 44% of all major depression cases were assisted using traditional methods. 56% of the cases were from 23andMe via self-reports. Multiple lines of genetic evidence supported conducting meta-analysis of these 7 cohorts. There are 56% of the cases with 23andMe being self-reported is a number of success rate on the data they were able to use on their online database due to DNA samples given to the company. The study found that, in summary, this genome-wide association meta-analysis of 135,438 MDD in major depression cases and 344 1,901 control identified 44 loci. An excessive set of combination analysis provide insights into the nature of MDD as well as its neutral biology, therapeutic relevance, and genetic and biology interconnection. The counterclaim of this study is the idea that physical environment is what causes likeliness of mental illness rather than genetic reasons. The study did have a few gaps what the study itself talked about. I will quote the study in its counterclaim first. The study countered this idea from within the paper, saying, however, our approach may be controversial to some readers given the unconventional reliance on self-report of major depression. We would reframe the issue. We hypothesize that brief methods of asserting major depression are informative for the genetics of MDD. We present a body of results that is consistent with the hypothesis. Even if unconventional, our hypothesis is testable and falsifiable, and we invite and welcome empirical studies to further support or refute this hypothesis. In the video I'm about to show you, he basically brings up the point of nature versus nurture on the side that physical environment has more likely to do on if you get a mental illness rather than genetics.
Traumatic stress disorder.
If you have extreme, if we're talking very, very extreme, and if you're talking close in time, so I mentioned the Ghanaians, for example,
Right,
in
that
the
was
book.
a disturbing story.
Yeah, it is a disturbing story, and I mentioned them because they're such a famous case. They've been used so often to promote the idea that schizophrenia is genetic.
Right,
Because all
okay.
4 of these girls, we're talking about the Genane quadruplets, all 4 of the girls developed schizophrenia. And the argument is you can't have 4 out of 4 unless it's genetic.
Okay.
So it proves it's genetic. It does not prove it's genetic. When you look closely at their childhoods, it is amazing. It's one of the most abusive stories I've ever heard. Their father sexually abused these girls. Their father would not allow them to dress except how he wanted them to dress. He would watch them dress every day. Even after they reached puberty, he watched them dress every day. He'd watch them use the toilet. He carried a gun through the home. He was extremely paranoid. He was an alcoholic and a severe diabetic. He would not allow his wife to write her mother without inspecting those letters. He would read the letters before they were sent off. It was just an incredible home life, a terrible amount of abuse. And consequently, yeah, all 4 of the girls developed schizophrenia. You cannot argue that that's genetic based on that case. Those girls had a life that was just torture from beginning to end.
Okay, so then the question is, can mental illness be genetic or is it based on experience?
There is absolutely no evidence that it is genetic. This is the golden grail. This is what will make someone extremely famous. It'll put his name or her name into every psychology textbook and medical textbook from now to eternity. This is what will make someone win a Nobel Prize. Consequently, it has been pursued. Countless studies. I'm talking literally thousands upon thousands upon thousands of studies. Millions upon millions of dollars have been spent pursuing what everyone knew to be true, that there's a genetic link there. It has never been found. The studies that say, here's a link, have been discredited. I discussed that in my book, show why some of those twin studies prove that there's not a genetic link. This is silliness.
So it's environment?
It is absolutely environment. The factors related to schizophrenia are many, they're common, they're across decade, they're across country. We know what the factors are. I list those in the book. It's important to recognize that it is not simply genetic. If it is, it means you can't do anything about it. It means that if you're born into the wrong family, you're destined to lose your mind. At least you're at increased risk of that. It's a very negative view of mental health. A much more positive view is my view that says, yes, there are risk factors, but you can make choices. You can take the steps necessary to have good mental health and have a wonderful life. Everyone can choose to make those steps. Everyone can have a good life.
The video was older, from 2015, and there has been some newer articles and data sources and things linking schizophrenia to genetics. But some have been disproven, and it's still under debate on if schizophrenia is directly linked to genetics. But the main point on what he was arguing was that physical environment and how someone is raised is more linked to if someone might become mentally ill or more acceptable of becoming mentally ill rather than genetics. being a potential reason for someone more likely to become mentally ill. I want to end this video off giving a couple of websites you can go to, and if you are feeling kind of depressed or have a lot of anxiety, just places you can go to. The first is the National Alliance of Mental Illness, or NAMI, N-A-M-I, and it's an organization you can go to, and they have a page where people have just written poems and written stories about their experience, how they got out of it, or just their experience now if they still have this depression and just what they feel. And this gives a place for you to just voice your opinion without being judged and getting, feedback and encouragement on a site where people are experiencing the same thing you are experiencing or experiencing something very likely. There is also a site called Scattered Dots. What is really, really good is similar to the National Alliance of Mental Illness and what they have going, but the whole website itself is just that. It's just so you can write a poem. You can write a story about what you're experiencing. You can help somebody if you've gone through it before. It's the same sort of thing they have created, but it's a blog just for it. And I have been on the site before, and it is really good. And the owner of the site itself is someone who's really dedicated to making a site where people can go to without being judged and can voice what they're going through and get experience back with it and just get help if you need it. I mean, it's a amazing site to just go to. Even if you're not experiencing mental illness and you just want to give some encouragement, you can still go on the site and write a poem or write a story and just put something out there to maybe give someone else encouragement on what they're going through. The website is scattereddots.net, and I will link the website and the other website I mentioned and all the other sources I've used, like I said, in the information box below on the YouTube channel. I hope that this video will just help on general awareness of mental illness and just help you understand this topic and just what mental illness is and the factors what may influence mental illness. I will make videos going more into the particular mental illnesses themselves, like depression, anxiety, OCD, schizophrenia, all the ones that were mentioned in the video briefly. I'll make a detailed video on each one and just explaining more information and giving people more feedback on just what it is. Because in general, mental illness is something people just don't understand fully. So the point of this series, what I hope to develop, is that I'll give more understanding over each mental illness, at least the main mental illnesses, because there are technically 200 classified forms of mental illness, but at least the main ones just give you something to give you more understanding. Apologize, the video went longer than I intended it to be, but I still wanted to get all the information out there, and I might end up splitting the video into two or making a summary video what's shorter for the people that don't want to spend this amount of time listening to it. But I do want to keep my information in depth, so I've decided for this one to go a little bit longer so that I can fill everything in what I need. Thank you for listening.
When's the last time you thought life's worth living? You may think there's only one way out.